Guernsey, a stunning, strategic outpost of the British Isles for centuries. To anyone visiting today, it's clear that an enormous amount of effort was spent on its defence by successive monarchs, governments, and during the Second World War, occupiers. After Germany's successful invasion of the Channel Islands in 1940, Adolf Hitler was determined to turn Guernsey into a fortress of his own. I'm Dan Snow, and in this guide I'm going to join local guide Amanda Johns to explore the remains of Hitler's bunkers. So Amanda, great to meet you.
Good to meet you, Dan.
Thanks for showing me around your beautiful island. What are we looking at today?
So today we are at one of the gun emplacements for Batterie Mirus.
And this is part of the extraordinary fortifications built by the Germans in World War II.
It's just amazing, the amount of fortifications that are on our island, and this is housed one of the largest guns that were here.
Hi there.
Dan, hi. Welcome to Batterie Mirus.
Very nice to meet you.
Thank you, you too.
This is an unbelievable concrete footprint. Is this typical of Guernsey?
Well, this site is the biggest in the Channel Islands, to be fair.
Really?
And this is absolutely huge, as you can see.
Did this gun ever fire a shot in anger?
It did, but very ineffectively.
Just having a pot shot at enemy ships?
Yeah, that's right.
Gosh, it was a bit of a waste of money and effort on Hitler's
It was,
part.
yes.
Right, do you want to take
Should we go inside?
Yeah, let's
right.
do it.
Come on, let's see that.
You're kidding, look at this. To assert his dominance over the Channel Islands, Hitler ordered the construction of the massive Mirus battery. The 4 huge naval guns placed here were capable of firing 12-inch shells. So is this original here?
Yes, it is. Yeah. So this is directing people to the first aid point, which is in the far corner of the bunker.
Wow, it's an amazing state of preservation. Right, where are we going? Lead on.
So we have the Eagle, and if you look very closely, you will actually see that it's drawn out much larger. So we have the clear blue Eagle, but then we have another circle down here with the swastika. And if you look out, there's pencil lines drawing the wings to be much larger. And also, if you look at the eagle's head and go a few centimetres either side, you see pencil lines of another eagle's head looking in that direction.
And then what's at the other end?
So at the far end, we have some German artwork. There's no real literal translation, but it means we march towards England or we go towards England.
So that's the naval anchor with the engineers and coal behind, with this being a naval site.
I've never seen anything like that.
It's fantastic.
So this is unique to this particular emplacement.
What a piece of history. Thousands of German soldiers were posted to Guernsey, and 72 of them were stationed here at the Mirus battery, tasked with defending the island at all costs. It is absolutely massive.
It is. And there's a big difference now when you come into this area where the crew were accommodated. You see patterns on the wall here where you see stencils such as these, just to make it feel a bit more homely. We've also got some German text here, Achtung, Frontal mit, which means attention, the enemy is listening, and that's where the telephone would have been mounted.
And were they allowed to ring home, do you think?
Not ring home, but because they were using the civilian telephone network, they didn't want to give any information over that.
This area here, we have 4 rooms here where the crew would have been sleeping. So there was 68 crewmen sharing these 4 rooms here. It would have been quite cosy, should we say?
Yeah, I think it would have been very cosy, but I think they'd have been glad they were here and not on the Eastern Front in Russia as well, wouldn't they?
Absolutely.
So these are quite typical of crew rooms for German bunkers. They have 3 tiers of bunks that fold down. It's quite tight in terms of their personal space. They get hooked onto these chains, and this room would have had, a whole row of bunks all the way around this side, possibly a few wardrobes for them to store their personal effects there. And then there was a sink for the first aid just by the door there. So this room would have had wooden panelling just to make things maybe a little bit warmer for them and maybe to deaden the sound a little. But when that's all peeled off after the war, because timber was being used for all sorts of fuel immediately post-war, it reveals some quite interesting information that was inscribed on the wall. And there's numbers that we see which we believe are German. Not quite sure what they're doing, but there's also a very nice drawing on the wall over there, which we believe is period.
Oh wow.
Possibly one of the crew maybe was thinking of somebody back at home.
Yeah. Anticipating Allied retaliation for his occupation of the Channel Islands, Hitler also ordered the construction of a vast underground hospital spanning 72,000 square feet, capable of withstanding a concerted assault. How many wounded German service personnel could this hospital deal with at full capacity?
If it was used in a massive emergency at full capacity, 800. When the island was liberated, they found 800 bed spaces down here. You know, unbelievable quantity. The tunnel system itself was originally designed to hold reserve troops. You know, because from where we are, it's almost a direct road system that takes you down to the west coast.
So these tunnels would have been excavated by who? The Germans themselves?
But the Germans would have overseen all the technical designs, the drawings, how the materials dug up. Because tunneling is a very specialist engineering work. However, they would have had the massive resource of forced labour, which were brought over to the island. We know at the peak there are nearly 6,000 foreign workers here. So as we come around the corner, we can see the unlined tunnel. This would have been the first area to be done, but the construction methods, it would have also been the last area that would have been finished.
That just gives you a sense of the task of mining through this rock.
Yeah, I mean, they would have created a small pilot tunnel, and then as they were getting ready to put the sidewalls up and the roof, they would have then expanded it at the last minute.
You can see the tight conditions between the rock face and the actual concrete above, so they would have been working up there.
Well, they'd have been crawling between the concrete and the rock face.
Yes. And this is one of 3 main entrance and exits.
Being a forced labourer down here just doesn't bear thinking about. Let's keep heading in.
Yeah. So as we're coming down this corridor, this is where the patients would have been brought in. And as you look around, you can see where the overhead pipe work would have been, the electrical cables. But as we look down, you see this lip that's actually been built up around the drains. This is where they would have hung the stretchers, where they would have washed them down.
Wow.
You know, unbelievable.
And so this keeps all the sort of blood and gore in one area and
they're
flush it.
directing it down the drain.
It gives me chills.
They were thinking of all sorts. So if we go in here, then we can see representations of the beds as they would have been during the war.
Okay.
You know, here we've got single wooden beds in very close proximity to each other. And in some wards, they would have had bunk beds, obviously for the lesser wounded people, to be able to get as many people as possible underground in safe conditions.
Obviously, these wards were never filled with wounded men in battle, but I mean, it would have been terrifying sights and sounds down here if it had been busy. Yeah.
And shortly after D-Day, there was a lot of Allied air activity around the islands and shipping being attacked. And we know from post-war visitors that some of the German naval personnel who were injured offshore from the islands, rather than being taken to the German medical hospitals on the outskirts of St. Petersburg, they were actually brought here for treatment at that time.
So it was used?
It has been used, indeed. And perhaps one of the more unusual stories, in more recent years, we've also discovered that there are a number of children were brought here for dental treatment, no doubt because the local hospital facilities were in such short supply of materials. And there must have been an almost unwritten agreement between the doctors, we'll still help your people as much as we can. Really interesting.
The Channel Islands were liberated in May 1945, following the general German surrender. A major attack on Guernsey never took place. Although much of what the occupiers left behind was reused as the islanders began the long process of rebuilding, the traces of the Second World War that remain on Guernsey are remarkable. Thanks for watching this video on the History Hit YouTube channel. You can subscribe right here to make sure you don't miss any of our great films that are coming out. Or if you are a true history fan, check out our special dedicated history channel, historyhit.tv. You're going to love it.